Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. First item is to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is missing from the hall, but there is a flag out in the parking lot. So if you would join me and face the parking lot. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And there's a flag on the back of that, guys.
We could have had him.
Okay. First item on our agenda is to act on the minutes from the August 21st meeting. Has everyone received an advance copy of the minutes? Are there any corrections to the minutes? As there are no corrections, the minutes from August 21st are approved. Next up is to act on the minutes of the September 4th special meeting. Has everyone received an advance copy? No votes were taken. Obviously, there shouldn't be any corrections to the minutes. There being no corrections, those minutes are also approved. Thank you. Okay, next up, under communications, Maureen Greco, Girl Scouts Camp Out and Bonfire for October 4th and the 5th at Jennings Beach. Is Ms. Greco here? If you could please come to the podium. And for anyone who does come to the podium, we ask for a full name and address.
Thank you. Sorry. Maureen Greco, 20 Glover Street. So requesting camping at Jennings Beach October 4th and 5th for a group of junior Girl Scouts, camping to earn the camping badge, and also bonfire skills and safety.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Is this on? Okay. October 4th and 5th, it's one overnight, correct?
Yes, one overnight,
Okay, and
Friday to Saturday.
approximately how many do you expect?
20 to 30, probably on the lower end of that.
20 to 30, okay.
Any other questions? Joan, I'm assuming the dates are good. Anyone care to make a motion? There's a motion by Brian. Is there a second? Second from David. Are there any questions from the public? Okay, back to the commission. All those in favor? Vote is unanimous. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Next up, under communications, request from Eric Johnson and Keith Broderick, police 5K race for July 22nd, 2020 at Jackie Durrell Pavilion. Is Mr. Johnson or Mr. Broderick here? Thank you.
He apologizes. He's at a police fundraiser as we speak. So this is our third request over the past couple of years. We've run this race out of the parking lot as well as Jackie Durrell. Happy to report numbers are in from this past July. We raised $27,000 net to be divided around two town-run benefactors, the Police Union Scholarship Fund, to benefit those children of officers in the line of duty, specifically here in town, as well as the Friends of the Bigelow Center for Senior Activities, which is the 501c3 that helps manage the funds going in to support our senior center here in Fairfield. I'm remiss to mention Eric Johnson, 114 Merton Street. Sorry, Scott. So nothing has changed. Be the same plan. I know everything has been presented to the board previously and prior to this meeting. So it's scheduled for July 22nd. Start time same, 6 o'clock. Cleaned up, out of here by 10. So we ask your favor in approving it again.
Thank you. Questions?
Did you guys do a rain date last year?
We did not.
Okay.
We run in the rain. As a runner, it's actually preferred. As far as the attendees that buy food tickets, definitely a family-friendly event, as some of you guys know who attended. You know, we'd prefer sun, but rain or shine.
Okay, anyone care to approve? Do you have a question?
Was 2019 the first year that you did this?
Nope, we did it, 2018 was the first year. 2019 obviously was second, and requesting for 2020 tonight.
And in 19 you said you raised 27,000.
Correct.
18 was that
22,000.
22? Wow,
Yep.
congratulations.
We'd like to reach lofty goals, Keith, Lieutenant Broderick, and I. We actually tried to reach 30 this year, so we fell short. So we look forward to reaching that goal and potentially exceeding it next year.
Moving forward, since this will be, next year will be the fourth year, can we?
Third year.
approve yeah, after this
Yep.
one, if we approve it. It can go through the office, not through, okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve, second from Brian. Any questions from the public? Back to the commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you to the residents that live down at the beach, too. Hopefully, it's not too much of a disruption, but I will tell you guys, and the board as well, which I don't think you guys have access to this information, that over 90% of the people that ran that race and attended it are actually from Fairfield.
Okay, next up under communications, a request by Madeline McCusker, Girl Scout Silver Award project request. Is Ms. McCusker here? Hi.
Paige DeSantis, 229 Lockwood Road.
Say your name and address.
Madeline McCusker, 7 Lola Street. Hello, thank you for letting us come speak tonight. My name is Paige DeSantis, and this is my co-partner, Madeline McCusker. We are Girl Scouts, and for our Silver Award project, we wanted to support our community by improving the Ed Crowley Path at Owen Fish Park. This path is to honor our U.S. veteran, but the problem is that not many people know about the trail, and the trails are not in ideal condition. So we are going to keep our plan simple, plant bulbs like tulips and daffodils, which are flowers that come up every year and easy to maintain and like shade. We were also going to make a mural out of the glass we find on the trails, and this will make it sustainable. We will be picking up trash also. We are going to either fundraise to be able to pay for a bench to put around the scenic part of the path, or we may ask local businesses to donate a bench in return. We will recognize them on the plaque on the bench. We will also be doing general cleanups like weed whacking and making the trails more pronounced. So in conclusion, we ask permission to start our project.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
I'm sorry, where did you say it's at the back of,
Owen Fish Park.
so is this the one leading out the back of the,
Where the parking lot is, it's like to the side over there.
okay. And so you guys are going to, your job will be to clean it up and raise funds for a bench? And then will it be an ongoing task that you're taking on?
Yeah, we're gonna try to do something with that. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? Jamie?
It's more a question, I think, maybe for us. Is there any kind of oversight required from the town, from Public Works or anything for this, or I don't know?
We do have a bench program. We use it both, as you know, both at the golf course and in town. DPW will help install it. Anthony will find a place for it once you choose it, but it would go through our department. We choose it so all the benches are uniform throughout town. And then you would maintain it. There's not really anything to maintain.
Okay.
Jessica? Okay, motion approved. Is there a second? Okay, Chris? Okay, any questions from the public? Back to the commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck. The next item on our agenda is a request by Mr. Roger Goodletty. He cannot attend this evening, and he has asked that we postpone his request to October, which we will do. Okay, next up on our agenda is public input. This is for anything that is not on the agenda later on this evening. So if anyone in the public would like to talk about something other than the marina, you can do so now. Okay. Moving along, under new business, to hear and act upon any business that may properly come before the commission. We have a request by the marina manager, proposal to address winter storage fees and Perry Greens fees.
Justin Cathcart, Marina Coordinator for Town of Fairfield. Put in a request to raise the land storage rates for this winter to $22 a foot and raise the wet storage rates for residents to $550 for a slip.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions from anyone?
What are the current rates?
The current rate is $20 a foot for dry storage and $500 for the slip.
Okay, and when was the last time they were raised?
The dry storage was raised in between 2015 and 2016. At that time, it was $18 a foot. The wet storage was raised in 2004.
And what is the reason behind the request for the increase? Is there an increase in how much it's costing the department?
Just the general increase over time with labor, whatnot, feel like a $22 a foot request would be appropriate.
Right, but what does this fee go toward? Does it go to pay salaries? Does it go for maintenance costs?
I believe it goes into it would go into the general fund.
And that's used for anything that we need to do, employees, DPW work down there, paving of roads, whatever it might be.
So when you say the general fund, that means that it could go into anything having to do with Parks and Rec, not strictly for the boaters?
Well, it's a revenue stream
I
that
under-
goes to general fund, just like anything
Right,
else.
but it doesn't, but it's not going to be earmarked specifically for something
Correct.
there. And I apologize, but I just want to be clear. There is no increase that your department is experiencing that requires this, correct? This is just an increase to more money that's going to be going into the general fund?
That's correct. There is the wear and tear to the docks with the boats that are in the water.
Thank you.
Brian?
Justin, can you just review how our rates compare to other options?
Sure. So for municipal marinas, there's not many options that have dry storage. The only other town municipal marina that has dry storage is Greenwich, and they're at $25 a foot. Wet storage options are Stanford. They're at to make it apples to apples, it's about $20 a foot for a resident to $22.50 a foot, whereas our per foot rate right now for water storage is $13.88. If you want to go into some commercial marinas, right now commercial marinas are charging $47 a foot for trailer storage, up to $62 a foot, and wet storage is between $35 and $50, and that's Cedar Marina, Captain Cove, Norwalk Cove, and Stratford Safe Harbor, or formerly Brewers.
Any other questions?
I would actually just like to make a motion to either postpone or table this, given that we don't know what we're doing with the marina just yet. I think it might be a little premature to be increasing fees without knowing what direction we're going in.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to postpone, to table? All right, there's a second to table. Any comments from the public? Yeah, please.
I'm John David at 25 Brett Road. He's looking for a 10% increase. Now, if that was just over 1 year, that'd be too much. But it sounds like it's over a period of maybe 5 years, okay? So it's like 2% a year. So, you know, maybe it's a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment from the public?
Doug Chevanello, 3 Brookfield Avenue. I think the old rate and the new rate are both cheap by any standard, but they're simply telling us they just want to take more money out of the marina and throw it into the general fund, which is what this group has been trying to do year after year. The marina generated $360,000 profit.
Sir, if I could just interrupt you. Again, that's not what the discussion right now before
The
the commission
discussion
is.
is about what you're asking is more money, and
Right
you're
now,
asking for more money with no justification.
Sir, if I could. For the sake of having an orderly meeting, it is important that we keep any comments germane to what is before the commission. In this case, it's just a motion to table. It's not a discussion about putting more funds into the, more dollars into the general fund. So unless there's a question from the population, from the general public on our motion to table, your comment would have to be specific to our motion to table. For example, you would say, I don't think you should table, or I think you should table.
I didn't know there was an option to speak before this on what Justin proposed. I apologize. I just have one question for Justin to put it in perspective. If you have a 25-foot boat that you are currently winter storage at $20 a foot, is that monthly or the whole season?
That's the whole season.
So that's $500.
Correct.
So it would cost another $50 is what you're saying, which I think is what you were wondering, another $50 for the whole season for a boat, correct?
For winter storage.
Okay. I don't think anyone in this room has a problem with that. I don't know why you would table something like this. It's $2 a foot, times how many boats generally go into dry storage in the winter?
110 this past.
Yeah. Is that really that much going to the general fund compared to what we're here for tonight?
Again, given the discussion, it might be worthwhile to table.
It's up to you. Just
Okay.
wanted to speak. Thank you.
All right.
Daniel Camaro.
Okay, back to the commission. All those in favor of tabling? So I'm going to motion to table, and there is no, okay. There's no majority, the motion fails. The proposal is still before us. Any questions from the commission on the proposed rate increases for winter storage? Are there any further discussion from the public on the proposed rate increases for winter storage? Sir?
Just a quick question.
Yeah. Sir, I apologize. If you're, again, if you're able to come to the podium, we're going to ask that you do so, just because this is being recorded, and if you're speaking out in the audience, it will not be picked up by FairTV.
The only brief question I had, I remember looking at a format a few years ago about winter storage, and out-of-town boats were allowed in also. The rate, I believe, was double what the locals had to pay. So I don't know if there's anything about out-of-town storage for boats.
That would remain the same double rate, so $44 a foot.
Okay, because that wasn't brought up, so, okay, thank you.
Always been that way. Okay. Sir?
Thomas Byrne, 1831 Mill Plain. I just want to make a comment regarding the use of commercial marinas as comparable to fixed pricing. When you go to Captain's Cove, for instance, you get a round turn. They pick your boat up out of the water, they power wash your boat, they move it, they put it on the poppets, so you get it, and then you have access to shrink wrappers, mechanics, et cetera. And then in the spring, they pick the boat back up, they bring it over, and they put it back in the water. So it's not exactly the same kind of services you're getting here for the $22. And I think it's just inapposite to use that as a comparable price.
Okay,
I just saw
thank you.
that.
Okay. Public first, all right. All right, no more comments from the public, back to the commission. We'll go Jessica and then Chris. Oh, okay. Chris and then Jessica.
Justin, approximately what percentage is out of town versus residents?
I don't have that information. I'd say probably, I don't have an exact estimate, but I would say less than 10%. That quick guess. Also, just to respond back to the last comment about the storage, I was asking for just trailer storage, not hauling, pressure washing, anything like that. So somebody has a boat that they put on a trailer, bring it into any of those marinas.
Okay. Jessica?
Yeah, this is for Justin as well. So what is the increase for the wet storage for out of town?
So the wet storage would also be a 10% increase, so it would go from 1,000 to 1,100.
And again, is it approximately the same breakdown? Or when you were talking about the 10%, is that for both or just?
I would say that's for both, yeah.
For both. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
Joe Richardson, Zos Drive. As per Justin's previous comments, we haven't experienced any price cost for this. Why are we asking for a revenue increase? I don't understand that. If we're not experiencing increased cost, why are we asking for more revenue?
Thank you. Okay. And then Alexa?
Just to that gentleman's question, why are we asking for this increase? Where did the request, is the request coming from where?
The request was asked to see what the appropriate price should be for.
From who, though? From who? Is this something that you look to generate? Who asked you to bring this request to us?
I brought it forward to Anthony Calabrese and said, should I propose this? And he said, go for it.
And your justification for looking for the increase was because we just hadn't increased it?
Correct. We haven't increased it, and trying to get some more money so that we can actually spend more money on the marina.
Wait, say that again? I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I didn't hear him because,
I was hoping that if we would bring in some more money, I would be able to have more money to spend on the marina.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Jamie.
Again, just wanted to clarify, so you said that the wet storage had not been increased since 2004?
That's correct. In 2003, it was $450. 2004 on, it was $500.
Is there an option to increase for out of town and not for in town?
I guess if the commission decides that they just want to increase out of town, I'm not sure if there's any rules of how much you can increase out of town versus in town.
Now, again, my premise is that since 2004, it would be hard to argue the costs have not gone up in some manner, labor costs, maintenance costs, whatever, water costs, utilities, et cetera, so.
Correct.
Okay. Any Anything else from the commission? Anyone care to make a motion? Okay. You're gonna, I think it's on. Now it's off.
Thank you. I'm going to make the motion to increase the cost as presented by Justin. We're going to go from 1,000 for wet to 1,100, and from 18 to 22 on dry.
All right, there is a motion. Is there a second? Second from David.
That's not the proposed.
Addendum to that, just as Justin recommended then, so 18 to 20.
No, negative. It's 20 to 22, 40 to 44, then 500 to 550, and 1,000 to 1,100. John, you have that? David, you're okay with the second still? Okay. We've already had comments from the public on this. That's fair, but that is fair. Any comments from the public on the proposed rate increase for dry and wet storage?
Lukesh, 147 Perry Street. My question is, can you, I hate to use the word guarantee, but in writing somehow state that this money will not go to the general fund and it goes to the marina only? Because you're saying marina and you're saying general fund, so we're hearing two different things here. Where is this money going?
We cannot, we cannot do that. So everyone's aware of how funds are raised in town, and we don't spend too much time on this, but slip fees, dry or wet storage fees go into the operating fund for Parks and Recreation. Right, and they also fund other recreational opportunities in town. Whatever, at the end of the year, if there is a surplus, which typically there is a surplus in Parks and Recreation, the town sweeps that operating account. Typically, they leave about $200,000 in. But whatever revenue the Parks and Rec Department generates, we only keep a percentage of that for future operations, for example, funding whatever has to get going early on in the season next year. But anything above that gets swept, and that's not our decision.
Sir, to your point, we've actually made that request on multiple occasions to the Board of Finance, and it's fallen on deaf ears. So we've discussed this many, many times. We, as a commission, I think, are in agreement of a sinking fund. You know, and this is something, again, that we've discussed with the Board of Finance, and it has not been approved.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I just want to go on record that I'm not going to support this. I think if anybody here got a, wait a minute, don't clap yet. I think if anybody here got a notice in the mail from the UI, or the gas company, or the telephone company, and they said, well, it's not because we need the money, nothing's gone up, nothing's increased, it's not going towards anything that's going to be necessarily going towards you, but we're going to raise your fees. I think we'd all be pretty ticked off if they just said, we're going to raise them, because they haven't been raised in a few years. So we're just going to ask you for more money. I can't, there's no justification for it. Nobody can say to me, it's going to cost us X amount more a year. Yeah, $50 more a person may be great, but if we could guarantee it was going to the marina, that'd be one thing. But we can't do that. So I can't, I can't support this.
Okay, we're still at the public comment portion. If there's anybody else who would like to make a comment, we'll go. If you want, you can get in line.
Yes, I would. Bill Mulcairn, 460 Fairfield Woods.
taking a look at those figures that you presented, it seems like the marina is running at a profit anyway and is already benefiting the general fund quite nicely. So really, it's just singing for your supper. You just want more money.
Okay.
I have to agree with you.
Thank you.
My name is Ken Camaro, and I live on Carroll Road, right opposite Fairfield U. My observation is that he just mentioned he wanted to raise the storage fees, and there may be something in the works to raise the fees, the berthing fees. I can't see how any commission can, or any operation can come before the town without a shopping list of the things that they plan to do this year, second year, third year, fourth year. You know, there's the backlog of things that have to be done. There's always, you know, routine maintenance, but there's also capital improvement. So I don't think the commission should allow any kind of a fee increase on anything unless there's an associated 5-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan that delineates, you know, what are the projects that have to be done. There's annual maintenance, we all understand that, but there also could be capital improvement, safety improvement, whatever the case might be. I don't think this should be presented so the public knows what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Daniel Nijanson. I am in 530 Hillside Road. In regards to this issue, a point of order, I thought the commission voted to table it. Why are we bringing it up again?
Because it was moved to table and the motion to table failed.
Oh, thank you. I missed that part.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, the motion before the commission is to raise the land storage rates from $20 to $22 for residents and from $40 to $44 for non-residents, and to raise the wet storage rates from $500 to $550 for residents and from $1,000 to $1,100 for non-residents. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Those opposed? I'll vote opposed. That motion fails. Okay. Next up, Justin, I'm not sure if you were going to talk about Perry's Green.
The motion was to pass the $80 maintenance fee for each mooring for Perry's Green that the town pays to the slip hold, or the mooring holders. So it would be a $10 a foot fee, which is the current fee, and $80 maintenance fee for putting in the mooring.
Can you just explain that one more time?
So at Perry's Green, those boats are tied up via moorings to the dock. There is a subcontractor who puts in the moorings, and they charge the town $80 per mooring, whether it's the Perry Green moorings or the moorings in Southport Harbor.
And you're saying that the mooring holders do not pay that fee?
Correct. They pay $10 a foot.
And you're requesting what?
To pay the mooring fee plus the $10 a foot. So a vessel that would be 18 feet would be the $180 for the 18 feet plus the $80 mooring fee, so $260.
Hi.
How you doing?
So I can understand wanting them to pay the $80 maintenance fee. What does the other fee pay for? The $10 a foot, what does that pay for?
That's just the general maintenance and for that spot. So
That's a rental fee.
that's a rental fee, correct?
And is there a rental fee similar to that in Southport?
I'm
Or
not
do
su-
they just strictly have the $80 maintenance fee?
No, there's a rental fee for the Southport slips, or sorry, for the Southport moorings, and I'm not sure what that fee is. That's under the Harbor Management Commission.
Mary?
Justin? Sorry, I have a terrible voice. As you know, I was connected with the Harbor Management Commission for quite some time. Actually, the Perry Green setup is split between Harbor Commission and Parks and Rec Commission. And the boats are moored, one end of the boat is moored with a mooring in the harbor, and the other end of the boat is tied to a clothesline type of structure that is fastened to Perry Green. So you can take your boat, pick up your mooring, grab the clothesline and pull yourself in and tie up your stern to the land, right?
Correct.
Okay. Have you talked to the consultant of the harbor management about the plan that has been in effect for a few years, or that the Harbor Management Commission several years ago presented to, I think, to the previous manager or whatever, not the recent one, Robin, I think, and they suggested a way of modifying the charges so that they are not outrageously expensive, where the town charges this and the mooring fee is charged for maintenance in the harbor. That's the harbor maintenance fee for that mooring. And then I don't know what all else was being charged, but it got to the point where it was pretty awful for small boats. Have you had a chance to talk with him?
I have not talked with the Harbor Management Commission, but I can reach out and speak with them.
I think that would be, maybe you missed that, maybe that work was, I did hand that information over to the previous person, and perhaps that did not get passed on to you. But I think perhaps you ought to talk to him before you make this proposal again.
All right.
If that's the way you want to do.
Jessica? Okay, Chris?
Is the $80 a one-time fee, or is that an annual fee?
That's an annual fee, so every time the $80 covers picking up and putting the mooring back. So $40 in the spring, $40 in the winter is my assumption.
Okay. Justin, in light of Mary's comments, do you want to still request this evening, or would you rather bring this back?
I can bring it back.
Thank you. It's not before the commission at this point, so I apologize, but no. Okay. Moving along, under reports, Marina Subcommittee report to hear and act upon information in the Marina report. We have an appeal by Mr. Joseph Regensberger. Is Mr. Regensberger here? I believe he was supposed to attend. Okay, if he is not here, we'll move along. Next up is a public hearing and vote on proposed marina redesign. This will be really quick. Just some supplemental information as we work through this. Okay. This is, yeah, you must take them all. Okay. Okay, just handing out a little supplemental information for the commissioners. All the other documentation with regard to this request has been posted online. I'm assuming that everyone here has had a chance to look at it, but I will give a quick summary as to how we got here and where we're proposing to going. As everyone knows, the Parks and Recreation Commission has been instructed to prepare a long-term plan for South Benson Marina by the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the RTM. The Parks and Recreation Marina Subcommittee was assigned this task by the Commission and established the following steps in development of this plan. Number one, evaluate the current condition of South Benson Marina. Number two, develop potential configuration options and costs to optimize utilization. Number three, present configuration options to Fairfield's boating community for their feedback. Refine the configuration options, and costs based on boater feedback. And number 5, finally, make final recommendation for long-term plan to the town for approval. Number 1, evaluate current condition of the marina. South Marina was originally constructed late 50s and early 60s, and the current dock system was installed in the early 1980s per DPW records. South Benson Marina currently has 11 piers and floating docks that can berth approximately 600 vessels. As everyone knows, the piers are timber framed, the gangways and docks are aluminum. Race Coastal Engineering was contracted to perform a conditional assessment of the marina in the fall of 2017 and began their assessment in February 2018. The Race Marina Planning Report was completed in June 2018. That's been published, and I'm assuming everyone has seen that. So we don't need to go through all of it, but just some highlights. At the time of the observation, all 11 piers, gangways, and docks were in good condition with no visible signs of deterioration, damage, or neglect. However, given the marina's age, long-term replacement plan is recommended. One note on the gangways. The gangways, although in good condition, are shorter and narrower than recommended. The shorter component relates to the recommended pitch, which is currently steeper than recommended, and the narrower component relates to the use of dock carts primarily. If anybody who's tried to bring anything down to the boat, you can't get the dock cart off the dock. Kind of defeats the purpose of bringing the dock cart to your car. So that's an issue that they pointed out. Another issue that was raised in the race report was elements of the existing marina are not compliant with current American with Disabilities Act guidelines. ADA guidelines state that a marina of our size shall have a minimum of 9 handicapped accessible boat slips. South Benson Marina currently does not have any slips that meet this ADA requirement. Continuing under current configuration, frog hooks and bow pilings. South Benson Marina's current configuration maximizes occupancy at the expense of safety, accessibility, and navigation. Basically, we have more boats than you would normally find in a marina of our size. This is accomplished primarily by having tighter than recommended fairways and using frog hooks instead of finger docks. These two factors allow for additional occupancy of boats. However, the additional occupancy comes at a cost of safety and convenience per the race report. The general condition of frog hooks and modifications. A significant number of frog hook connections are damaged as a result of strain or otherwise modified. Modifications include the extending of the arms, adding platforms, or blocking out the hooks from the dock header, also referred to as a whale. Is that correct? Throughout the marina, there are a significant number of physical modifications made by boaters over the years to make the existing docking systems work. In many cases, if these modifications were removed, boarding off-boarding vessels would be extremely difficult and dangerous. In other cases, the removal of these modifications will result in outboard motor lower units being at least partially submerged full-time. And put that in perspective for people who are not boaters, outboard engines, typically you want to get them out of the water while you're not using them. And otherwise, you're basically soaking your lower unit, your prop, for 7-8 months a year. Not the most ideal condition. Next up, we were discussing, and the race report discussed fairway width. And bear with me on this one. The SCH, which is the American Society of Civil Engineers Planning and Design Guideline for Small Craft Harbors, I think I got that right, recommends that a minimum fairway width in a quiet pool marina, which is what South Benson Marina is considered, shall be 1.5 times the length of the longest vessel on that fairway. The existing fairways at South Benson Marina provide a fairway to boat length ratio of between 0.6 and 1.1 of the largest boat length on that fairway. For example, given a 24-foot boat, the recommended fairway should be 36 feet. In our case, that dimension would range between 14'5" and 26'5". As a comparison, multiple municipal marinas and private marinas in the area have fairway width to boat length ratios of 1.5 to 2.0. Per race, analyzing the existing boat lengths at South Benson Marina, it is recommended to do one of two things. One, increase the fairway width by approximately 30% to allow for adequate boat maneuverability, or two, decrease the length of boats by 25%. In our case, for our largest boats, that would reduce our maximum allowed size from 36 feet to 27 feet. Moving on to the next area was potential configuration options in subcommittee recommendations. Given the information in the race report and taking into consideration voters' feedback, the subcommittee asked for additional layout and cost proposals from race and eventually settled on 2 options for final consideration. One design we considered is option 12, and I would like to start there. Option 12 is a rebuild of the existing marina in its current configuration while adding a new west dock. Basically, if you can, the parking lot side, it's all the riprap. The new west dock would add 41 slips to the current count of max 609, but we generally fill it to about 600 boats. The rationale for adding a new west dock was that as a majority of the boaters didn't mind the tight fairways, we said, well, we can add another dock and still maintain an equally tight fairway between I and the new west dock. It would still be too small, but it wouldn't be any smaller than what we have down there now. The opinion of probable cost for option 12 is $7,208,000. Option 12 will add all new standardized frog hook connections on docks A through F and finger docks on the new west dock. Docks G and I will remain the same. Note, the existing piers will remain. That's an important consideration as we discuss pricing later on. Option 12 will not change fairway widths, so the existing navigation challenges will remain. It will also not significantly improve docking or onboarding or offboarding for safety. In fact, and this was a big issue, safety and functionality might actually decrease, and here's why. The current marina configuration, which option 12 will be duplicating, relies on significant individual boater modifications to make many slips work. 212 of our existing 600 slips, or 35%, have some sort of modification made to them by the boat owners. What I handed out to you a while ago is I think there's 24 images of those 212, but those are of those modifications, but that's representative of the type of modifications we see. They're either planks for people to board their boats, or with regard to the frog hooks, they're blocked out off of the whale, or the frog hooks themselves have been extended, or other modifications to make onboarding and offboarding safer. In those images you've seen, there's a number of hand railings that have been constructed, but the point is that 35% of our slips have some sort of modification. And option 12 would be recreating that. So the subcommittee struggled with the idea of recommending a $7.2 million project in option 12, and then allowing boaters to then immediately have to modify the docks to make it work for their vessel. Alternatively, if we decided to prohibit any modifications after the rebuild, the result would be a very large percentage of slips would become immediately unusable or offer compromised usage in some way. The other design we considered is option 11. This is based largely on the recommendations found in the race report. The opinion of probable cost for option 11 is $7,957,000. Option 11 will allow for the recommended fairway widths throughout the marina and also provide the recommended finger docks for all vessels in the marina. The inclusion of finger docks will increase safety while docking and when boarding and offboarding. It will also eliminate any individual modifications needed to accommodate a vessel in a given slip. Option 11 will also make the marina ADA compliant. Now, obviously, the downsides for option 11 are the reduction of slips from 600 to 471, which is a 129 slip reduction, and the added cost, which is approximately $750,000 more than option 12. Bear in mind, option 11 is a complete rebuild from the parking lot out, all new pier heads, everything, all electric, all water, everything brought right back to the parking lot. Option 12 would be similar with regard to the docks, power, and electric, but the pier heads would remain. So I don't know if we didn't break out the cost for the pier heads, but it's not zero, and the additional cost for option 12 is is $750,000. Moving on, or continuing with pricing, As you know, the other town bodies, as part of their request for a long-term plan, indicated that they would like to see marina slip fees based on market rates. The other town bodies were reluctant to define that, so we defined it for ourselves as the average of the 3 other municipal marinas in Fairfield County, which are Westport, Stamford, and Greenwich. Again, if we're going to keep the meeting orderly, everyone's allowed to present what they would like to present, but clapping or laughing is just going to extend the meeting, and it's also not very polite. Everyone's allowed to say what they want to say, as long as you're polite, but interruptions are not appropriate. Options 11, 12 can both be fully funded by slip fees based on a given percentage of the average of these municipal marinas. Option 11 can be fully funded by charging 100% of the average slip price of the 3 marinas that make up our market. We are forecasting an annual return to the town of $99,000 above and beyond operating costs based on current pricing. This is based on the operating expenses provided to us by the town while adding the additional debt service for the renovation and some miscellaneous adjustments. Option 12, which is a rebuild of what you have there now with the addition of West Dock, can be fully funded by charging 85% of the average slip price of the 3 marinas that make up our market. We are forecasting an annual return to the town of $123,000. Again, that's based on operating expenses provided to us by the town while adding the additional debt service for the renovation and miscellaneous adjustments. As for our recommendation that the subcommittee came forward with, taking into consideration the safety improvements, the navigation improvements, ADA compliance, eliminating the need for any modifications to accommodate virtually any vessel on a given slip, and the ability for this rebuild to be fully funded by market rate slip fees, the subcommittee is recommending the commission adopt option 11 as a long-term plan for South Benson Marina. One other component that I did want to address before we wrap this up is that the subcommittee has discussed, and we will continue to discuss, a temporary break-fix maintenance plan no matter how we move forward. But that direction and those decisions will be largely based on what decisions we make with regard to our long-term plan. So that is the request, that's the report and the request from the subcommittee to adopt option 11 as the long-term plan. Before we enter any comments from the public, it would be appropriate to get it before the commission. So if there is, anybody would like to make a motion to approve, to at least begin discussion. Mary?
I move to approve the adoption of option 11 for a long-term plan to be more developed, allowing for more revisions.
Is there a second to the motion? Second from David? We have a second. Second from David. Okay, the motion is now before the commission. What we'll do is we'll start with commission questions, then we will open it up to the public for comment, and then we will come back. Motion was to approve option 11 as the long-term plan to present to other town bodies.
With options for revision.
With options for revisions, which, yes, that's fine, which would be standard. Okay, so questions from the commission? Okay, Jessica, then David.
Yeah. How's that? Yep, there we go. Knowing the interest that the other town bodies have in the marina, has there been any outreach to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM? Are they aware that this project is potentially en route to them? Just curious.
Yes.
And, okay, I'm sorry.
No, when we first started to formulate the plan, we actually contacted the Board of Selectmen, and they said, put your plan together and then come back before us. I've also had conversations offline with Tom Flynn from the Board of Finance as well. So
and they're aware of the price tag?
No one's aware of the price tag yet.
Well, I guess that's what I meant, is just, I understand, because I remember when you were presenting to the board, and they said, have a plan. My question is anyone aware that something with an $8 million price tag is going to be coming to them.
No, the instructions from the Board of Selectmen were to get it together and then bring it to us. If we didn't come out of subcommittee with it, there was no point to bring it before this body. And and if we couldn't get out of subcommittee, there was no point to even present it to the public. So the next step logically would be to go before the other town bodies, where you know as well as anybody that's going to be a long process, and that could be shot down or returned to us for revision at any point, either by the Board of Selectmen, then by the Board of Finance, and then ultimately by the RTM.
Right, so I guess, sorry to keep, were there any kind of parameters, was there a limit as to?
You want this one? I hear you just fine.
No, it's still not. Sorry. Was there a sense of, come back with a plan, but don't have it be over X amount, or don't reduce the number of slips by Y amount, or it was just go get a plan, bring it back to us, and then we'll discuss all of the details? Sorry.
No. Every time that it did come before, or I was presenting to primarily the Board of Finance, it was always get your plan together. The only guidance that we received from the Board of Finance specifically was we expect market rates, and that was it. Nobody said we're looking to increase slips or decrease slips. They said come up with a long-term plan for the marina. That all generated in part by comments from the voting public that they might not have felt that they got enough action out of the commission itself, that they went to other town bodies and were voicing some concerns with regard to the condition of the marina, and that's what prompted a lot of the conversations from the other town bodies. But again, Board of Selectmen gave us little feedback, and the Board of Finance was the primary driver in saying we want market rates. Okay. Alexa?
I think David was next.
No,
Dave,
that's okay.
sorry.
I guess this isn't working now, is it?
Yes.
Oh, it is, great. You have a theoretical tax in there, $405,000, what is that?
That's just a sidebar. When we were, I left it on there just as a note. When we were trying to figure out where the marina surplus funds were, and again, this is to a lot of people's questions this evening, the marina makes a lot of money, and yes, it does. Current operation, it generates about $350,000 net, based on the numbers that we have, okay? But now that argument has been brought before the commission many times, and I have relayed that to the other town bodies several times, and they're going, you're not counting everything. From the Board of Selectmen, you're not charged rent. We're not covering your insurance. We self-insure. You're not adding all those factors in. So one of the first steps that we started to look at was, okay, let's say we had to put a number on what the town deserves, because we weren't getting that number. Nowhere, either the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, or the RTM says, we really don't care how you run that marina, but we want this much money out of it every year. Nobody was willing to say that. We said we make $350,000. The feedback in general terms from the RTM was more. That was the one-word answer. And the Board of Finance was specifically, we want market rates, never addressing that the marina runs at a surplus. So as much as we understand what you guys are saying, that the marina makes a lot of money, the marina does make a lot of money. Parks and Recreation makes a lot of money. Generally, Parks and Recreation returns over $1 million a year to the general fund. Okay, it is a money maker for the town, just like the building department's a money maker for the town. And it's expected to be a money maker. And we can't change that. As much as, and I don't want to get off topic too much, as much as the voters say it should be break even, I'm going to suggest that you have to let go of that. If you're not going to convince the Board of Finance, the RTM, and the Board of Selectmen that the marina should be break even, your request to do it at this level is, we cannot act on it. Okay, our instructions come from higher than where we are.
It's like all of the sites that we operate, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Golf is expected to make money, which it does. Everything for the most part, most of our activities do make money. There are some funds, there are some dollars that come out of your slip fees that do go to support other activities that don't make money. For example, say teen theater. or adaptive recreation. And quite frankly, you guys should be proud of that. It's not a lot, but it helps. The idea that every department, every activity that Parks and Rec runs is a moneymaker is not accurate, but you guys are a moneymaker, and we do take some of your dollars and spread it around Parks and Rec.
How long is this going to take to construct? It's got to get more approvals,
Right.
I'm sure, from the state level, maybe federal? Or?
Not state or federal.
Okay.
But the way I understand the process, if option 11 was adopted, the first step would be to freeze opening up slips as people leave. And we're estimating that the attrition would take as many as 3 to 4 years to achieve the 120, what was the number, 129 slips that we need to reduce, because we're not kicking anybody out, right? We have to get down to 471 slips. And to do that, we're just going to, when people leave, we're just not going to fill it. And then the remodel is not something that we would decide specifically with regard to timeline. That's beyond our ability to decide. It would be part of the bidding process. We would put together the RFP and what we would want to see, but if the successful bidder came back and said we can do it more cost effectively in one shot, and we could do it over one winter, it would come back before this commission to pursue that. Or if they came back and said we could do it most cost effectively over 2 or 3 years, we might pursue that as well.
Do you have a ballpark at all? Or?
As far as time?
Yeah.
We were told that they could theoretically do it in one winter.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm sorry, and I got off the original question with regard to theoretical tax. Thank you, Brian. So what we did was we said we're trying to identify a number that we can give back to the town and say, okay, that's it. That's how much the town deserves. And there's 3 parcels that make up South Benson Marina. And the mill rate based on the assessment of those properties came in at $405,000. So that was our initial starting point as to.
Oh, good God.
We're all getting it.
Amber alert.
Okay, meeting's over, thank you. Okay, David, did I answer your question sufficiently on the theoretical tax?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, other questions from the commission?
No, that was actually my question, was the attrition.
Okay. Jessica?
I just had a question. One of the things we have is the questionnaire that was filled out by voters. And I apologize because I'm sure we were given this information when we first saw this, but how many voters responded to this questionnaire?
I wasn't prepared for that question. I'm going to estimate it was, I have the number, I don't have it now.
Sorry. Like percentage? Ooh.
It was over 100. I remember it being over 100 respondents.
So it was about 1/6
Yeah.
of the voters responded.
Yeah, I think it was a healthy response.
Okay. And how is that disseminated?
It was at the meeting where we presented option 11 originally, and that was back in May?
April, yeah.
April. And then we collected the forms that evening.
So that was the only opportunity. So if you weren't at the meeting, you couldn't fill out the
Correct.
survey. So nothing went out online or anything?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
When you had the meeting with the voters, it was the Marina Subcommittee, I think it was at Ludlow?
Yes.
What was the general consensus among the voters after they got together?
Well, generally it was we don't want our rates to go up, but that wasn't universal. A lot of the feedback has been we don't mind our rates going up provided we're getting what we're paying for. That has been a reoccurring theme over a few years. And that ties back into, hey, the marina's making such a profit, we don't think we should pay any more, but that is in direct conflict with the other town bodies that are expecting more. So they were saying we don't want to pay any more, but we're happy to pay, happy is the wrong word. They understood that they would pay more if they received more. They also felt that the results of the poll could have been different if there was more information made available at that time, because at the time, option 11 was not complete price-wise. It didn't include everything. It was a rebuild of the marina, but it didn't include electrical and water, I believe, and I'm not sure if it included pier heads at the time. So we went back to Race and said, give us a complete price from the parking lot out, so that we could go to the boaters and say, this is their opinion of probable cost for a complete rebuild, and the only thing the town would own is final connection of both electrical and water. The only other thing that I did not point out is in both OPCs, there is a 15% contingency built into both of those numbers. But I felt it better to go with the number as with their cushion built into it, as opposed to stripping it down and we're going to wind up going over somewhere. So, any other questions from the commission? Mary?
As you know, they're not about to hire me to be treasurer of anything, but my understanding is that the financial proposal that you think you could work with is offering to have the marina boaters, what they pay for marinas, to offset the cost over an extended period of time for the bond that would have to be put out to pay for this. And that what would be left over was about $99,000 that would go into the general fund? Is that the idea?
And that's correct. And the idea there is what we were trying to do, and I just wanted to state this. You have to understand that the subcommittee specifically, and also the commission, we are on the boaters' side. And again, with the giggles, but we are advocating for the boaters, and this, even though it does represent a significant rate increase, it's a much more robust argument to be made before the town bodies. Before, we were arguing that the rates are too high and they want more money because they want market rates. Now, we can say, yes, the rates are higher, yes, you're getting market rate, yes, the boaters are paying for it, but you're not getting as much. So think of it this way, the boaters are not going to be happy with higher rates, and the town is not going to be happy with receiving less money, but we're much more on target with what the marina actually costs to operate, which I think is a stronger argument to be made. As much as the boaters may not want your rates to go up, the Board of Finance is going to be just as disappointed that they're not getting their $350,000. But that's an argument that I'm much more comfortable making that argument than having this kind of nebulous discussion with regard to how much should we get, even though we're already making money. Jamie?
We talked about ADA compliant, we talked about safety. Does anyone have a sense of what happens to the marina if neither of these investments is made? How long does it continue to operate in a manner that's reasonable? Do we have a sense for how much life is left in it?
We do. Bear with me for 1 second. Because as part of the original motion to present option 11 for adoption, there was an amendment to conduct an additional survey of the marina. So we made that request to Race, and their response back to us, if you'll bear with me, I'll just read it. Per our recent discussion, Race Coastal Engineering would like to respond to your inquiry on the efforts needed to more definitively determine what the end of the useful life of South Benson Marina docks will occur. This determination of a definitive date for replacement is not easily done due to the following reasons. Structures can deteriorate at varying rates. Extreme environmental factors, wind, waves, ice, etc., associated with storm events can cause premature failure of dock components. The effort necessary to check every structural and flotation component and determine critical properties would be a significant amount of time and dollars. It has been the experience of RACE that floating dock structures last between 30 and 40 years before structural failure, flotation failure, and/or excessive maintenance costs favor replacement versus repair. The conclusion of the South Benson Marina Planning Report dated June 2018 notes, the floating docks, which were installed in the early 1980s, are typically in good condition with the exception of the damaged frog hooks that are found on docks A through F. In addition, the docks were boater modified. The connections and/or frog hooks themselves have begun to wear out and corrode the main docks. Furthermore, even though the docks are currently in generally good condition, the age of the structure should be considered in long-range planning for replacement. The determination of when to best replace the docks will need to be factored by the town in consideration of ongoing maintenance costs, which will continue to escalate as the docks age, and any desired functional improvements. Recognizing that the docks were installed in the early 1980s and are approaching 40 years of service, it is the recommendation of RACE that the town develop a plan to maintain and appropriately improve this valuable asset. Such plans can then be executed at a future date when the best determination by the town from all overall facility planning perspective are necessitated by the deterioration of the docks. So basically, the marina is in very good shape for its age, but it's nearing the end of its useful life. And as they indicated, ongoing maintenance, which we're going to continue to do anyway, at some point that's going to become cost prohibitive. So do we have to do this now? No. But do we have to have this done before the docks turn 50? Probably. And we're looking at we're probably looking at 5 years from our last approval date, from whatever town body that is, most likely the RTM. The moment that we said, okay, we're going to freeze filling new slips, you're probably looking at 5 years down the road, 3 to 5 years down the road. So we're talking 2024 right now, around that. Which at that point, your docks are over 40 years. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, now we're going to open up public comment. And again, for the sake of decorum, obviously a lot of you, there's going to be some passionate opinions, but I'm going to ask, actually I'm going to insist on decorum. If there are any loud outbursts, clapping, whistling, whatever, if the meeting becomes unmanageable, I'm going to be compelled to end public comment. Everybody here is allowed to get up and talk, and we'll stay as long as you want. But if the meeting becomes unruly, I will have to end public comment. And it's been requested, and it is pretty standard that we limit comment for any member of the public to 2 minutes. And then if you want, just whoever wants to speak, just get in line. We could actually move it along a little bit time-wise. If you just want to form a line behind Mr. Harrington.
Mike Harrington, 93 Rolling Ridge Road. I'd like to redo the math. We just heard the docks have longer useful life, but we just got it to be 5 years. It's more than 5 years, and we all know it's going to last longer than 5 years. You've been presented with two options, option 11 and option 12, both roughly $8 million. And the statement was made that the boaters requested on April 23rd to preserve the marina as it is, and that became option 12. They never said rebuild the marina in its current configuration. They said, we've been in this marina for 50 years. We know it's tight. We know it's crowded. We've learned to accommodate that. If fixing that problem costs $8 million, we're not willing to pay it. Maintain the marina. As far as maintenance, the last P&L that was put together, the maintenance cost was $50,000 a year. I don't think it's going to become prohibitive very soon with a marina making $400,000. As far as the damaged frog hooks, the Marina Subcommittee designed a safer frog hook 2 years ago and made it available to the boaters if they were willing to pay extra for it. Several did. They're down there. You can see about 25 of them. They're just fine. You could replace every frog hook in that marina for about $115,000, and it would be much safer and much better. So we can, and the boaters said, we can live with the fairway widths. And to the question about what the feedback was at the meeting on April 23rd, the feedback was not rebuild this marina in its current form for $8 million. It was maintain it, prolong it for as long as you possibly can.
Thank you.
Noel Verova, 441 Riverside Drive, Fairfield. Mike basically said everything I had to say. I was at the meeting in April, and everybody there agreed that we just wanted to maintain the marina the way it was. There's nothing wrong with the docks. You talk about the fairway size. My boat is 24.2 feet. I'm a 36-foot slip. There's no slips for a 24 or 25-foot boat. I don't know why we can't put all the smaller boats on one side of a fairway and the larger boats on the other to give us more room in a fairway. Right now, everything's mixed up. You've got 30-something foot boats with 24-foot something boats. So if you need more room in a fairway, why can't we rearrange the marina a little bit where the smaller boats are on the same side and the larger boats could be on the opposite side to give us a little bit more room? The docks are great. There's nothing wrong with the docks. You may have to change something here or there, but there's nothing wrong with the docks. Just maintain them. I have one of the, we made a platform so I could board my outboard because I have a lower unit that sticks out. Why can't we just all agree on a frog hook, a universal frog hook that'll take care of all those issues? So everything is uniform. Right now I have a beautiful teak platform that makes it easy for me to get on and off my boat. And I don't see why that's a big deal anyway, because it's very convenient and it works very well for me. I've been in this marina almost 60 years. I live on Riverside Drive. It's a great place. To do a rebuild, you're losing out on 120 slips where people come to Fairfield for one of the reasons because we're waterbound, we have a marina, and I don't know why people want to lose spaces when we need actually more spaces. So I was at the meeting in April, and everybody at my table, we all agreed that we do not want to do anything but maintain it the way it is. The docks are fine, they're aluminum docks. Option 11 would replace them with wooden docks, which I think is crazy.
That's not correct.
Oh, it's not there anymore?
No.
Okay.
And, sir, if I could,
But
we're 2
leave it
minutes.
the way it is, just each year, just maintain it, and it works fine the way it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Chevanello, Fairfield, 3 Brookfield Avenue. The consensus of the meeting was, as Mike said, that, leave the marina the way it is until it's necessary, absolutely necessary to replace it. I mean, I'll say I love option 11. In a perfect world, I'd be all for it. But we aren't brewers, we don't have pools, we aren't Captain's Cove with a restaurant. We keep talking about market rates. Other than a place to park your boat, that's all Fairfield offers. A lot of other market marinas offer a whole lot more. If we look at the results of your survey, as far as, does the town deserve a return on their assets, 56% of the people disagreed. The next one is, should fees cover only the operating costs of the marina? 54% of the people strongly agreed. Now, I understand the dilemma you're in with Board of Finance and especially the first selectman demanding a return on the investment, but I'd argue with that too, that if we took that same approach to beaches, then beach stickers would be $500. We're not going to do that. I'll pull in a major capital improvement. Should it be undertaken? I'm sorry, the cost. And should the people pay less than 50%? 65% of the people wanted that. I mean, the majority of the people there didn't want to move forward with option 11. Most of it was based on cost. Now, I have a couple questions. These numbers, I see this, I got this from somebody that posted it online. A large slip is looking at like a $900 increase under these, and it's going to vary anywhere from probably $1,000 to $400 depending on your slip size. I think what the people are telling you is, it's not a rich man's marina, so keep it make what you have last, and I understand we need a plan moving forward, it's aging out, and that's a great plan. But, you know, and shame on me, I thought,
Doug,
I'm
I
changing my.
apologize. We're at 2 minutes. We're over 2 minutes
One
already.
last thing. I thought that golf courses, marinas, beaches, parks were amenities for the taxpayers who were paying for it through their taxes. I didn't know that, and I wasn't raised to believe that they were all to generate the maximum amount of revenue for the town. And I'm disappointed, not you guys, that the town takes that approach to their amenities.
Doug, thank you. You raised a couple of interesting points, and I would like to respond to two. You mentioned the beach stickers, and the beach stickers is a good example of how we approach pricing based on feedback from the other town bodies, is that the beach sticker pricing is in large part based on an equilibrium. We set beach sticker pricing until, people aren't buying beach stickers. It's not like what's a great deal and does it break even, does it keep the beaches clean? The other town bodies expect Parks and Rec to return revenue to the general fund. Parks and Rec is not break even. And as much as we as taxpayers may say, I want my beach sticker or my dump sticker to be cheaper than it is because it doesn't need to be what it is, that's going to fall on deaf ears. Again, if you guys can convince the other town bodies that Parks and Rec should be break even, please, go for it. But that's not what the expectation is. And then the other point, Doug, that you did bring up, and that's important. Yeah, everybody wants to keep the marina the way it is now, and we can keep it the way it is for a while. But we can't wait until the absolute last minute to come up with a plan. That would be irresponsible by this commission, and it would be impractical to implement. Anybody who understands how things happen in town, it's glacial in its approach. So if we actually did wait, say 5 more years before we had this discussion again, we'd be 5 years too late. Because at some point, the docks would no longer be functioning. They would no longer be safe. We didn't even address the comments that all the modifications that have been made. We don't know what that even means to us with regard to liability. A lot of the boaters have made their own modifications. We have no idea what that means if somebody made modifications without approval from Parks and Recreation, and then somebody gets injured as a result of those modifications. Some of the images that I shared this evening, some of those railings are failing. I wouldn't put my hands on them. Some of the platforms that have been added onto the frog hooks are chipped, broken, split. I would never step on them. As a matter of fact, and I don't want to belabor the point, but we had a number of tours with a handful of RTM members that wanted to see the marina, and they wanted to see the existing condition, and they did pretty much all agree that, boy, the docks themselves and the piers and the gangways are in good condition, but every single member of the RTM was invited to step onto a variety of the boats, and if I remember correctly, none of them even attempted it. So the idea that we're okay with frog hooks, you're okay with frog hooks, but it's a 2-step leap of faith. Right? I mean, Bill Gerber is a very powerfully built, strong, athletic man, and he wanted no part of stepping onto the frog hook. That fair? Right? That is, nobody tried. No, the whole part. I mean, he's taller than I am, and he's a strong man, and he wanted no part of it. All right, so next person, I'm sorry to go on and on.
Yeah, your 2 minutes.
My 2 minutes were up.
Rick Grauer, Fairfield resident, longtime marina user. The Parks and Recreation Commission previously stated they have undertaken a task regarding the design of the marina because they were asked by the town officials to evaluate the long-term viability of marina. Rather than doing that, you elected to disregard the input from the boaters and hired a consultant because you felt that neither the commission nor the subcommittee had the ability to answer the question. You have further ignored the suggestions of those using the facility. Yes, you took a pie-in-the-sky survey years ago, but also never asked what the boaters were willing to pay for. You have repeatedly stated that the boaters need to pay for things at the marina, not the taxpayers. With a 60% profit margin every year, I think it's safe to say the boaters are supporting the marina and other town activities. The Parks and Rec Commission and its subcommittee have spent considerable tax dollars with the outside consultant to study the marina at South Benson. In April of this year, you even held a public meeting on this very subject, and where you asked Race to make a presentation of option 11. You passed out a survey for those in attendance and overwhelmingly received disapproval. Here's a copy of the survey on their site. 4% of the people approved. Everybody else disapproved. Now you appear to be trying to ignore the will of the voters and those on the waiting list, again, attempting to shove through option 11. In February this year, Mr. Harrington presented to the subcommittee a draft of a plan he felt would be acceptable to the voters. The subcommittee gave him a polite thank you, but never aired the proposal. I think the voters deserve to know why. For the full Parks and Rec Commission to vote forward on option 11 to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and RTM without the support of the voters, I believe will make the commission look extremely foolish. I also suspect that voters will lobby those groups to deny the proposal. With the town finances already over budget, I don't believe they would pass it if there was a sizable opposition to it, which there will be.
Mr. Grauer, we're over 2 minutes.
Pardon?
We're over 2 minutes. I mean, if you want to wrap it up, I mean, if it's quick, you want to, if it's, you got 30 seconds? I mean, are we looking at minutes?
Well, I'll skip some of this, but part of the recommendations that have been made in the past, why don't you have a maintenance program? You could pull one set of those slips out every year, put them on shore, weld up anything that's wrong with them. You've also talked about ADA compliance. Have you ever looked at what the ADA rules are? I happen to have a handicap sticker. Every inch of elevation has to have 1 foot. If you have 12 feet from your dock to the marina,
Mr. Grauer.
to the slip, it's a 144-foot pier.
Mr. Grauer, we appreciate that. And again, it would be a challenge to solicit 600 designs on the marina from 600. Again, I'm not, all due respect, your 2 minutes are over. I'm just trying to respond in general. I'm not looking for a dialogue, and you and I cannot have a dialogue. But yes, we've heard lots of ideas from lots of voters. In the end, the subcommittee went with the professionals' recommendations, and I'm not sure I even have to answer that or justify it. If I wanted my taxes done correctly, I would have it done by an accountant, not by a carpenter. And in the same case here, we went with the professionals who do this for a living, who are qualified to do an analysis, who are qualified to do a design, and who are qualified to put together an opinion of probable cost. Yes, we appreciate the feedback of everyone, but it would be unmanageable that we would be able to entertain 600 individual ideas with regard to the marina.
I also find it unreasonable to think that you want to shrink a marina when they're trying to grow the town.
Mr. Grauer, we're way over time at this point. Again.
Can I just
Yeah,
make a
please.
comment here? Having been on the Board of Ed, one thing, if somebody has a letter that they're reading to us and it's going to go over the 2 minutes, you might want to see if the person next to you is willing to finish the letter for you as part of their 2 minutes.
Sir?
Good evening, folks. Tom Camaro, 55 Reed Street. I may have missed it earlier today, but I was just curious, you've mentioned the term market rates, comparable rates. What do you expect those will really be? I mean, I compare this to, I know what I'm paying for my boat now. What will this become? Because I think that's an important factor for us to consider.
Very good question. Okay. The average current rates for Westport, Greenwich, and Stamford, and this is for a small slip, the average of their municipal marinas is $761.37.
And our current rate would be?
Your current rate is $594 for that same slip. For the medium slip, the average of the three other, what we're calling the market, medium slip is $1,130. Your fees, if you have a medium slip, is $885.31. For a large slip, the market average is $2,115.52, and your current large slip fee is $1,468.53. And what we're calling premium, which would no longer exist, the premium for the market is $2,569, and currently our premium is $1,783.38. So depending on where, if we adopted option 11, your rates would be $761.37 for a small. Let me finish for a second. It'll be $885.31 for medium and $1,468.53 for a large. However, I want to just add to that, because in an effort to accommodate as many boats as we could, and the reason we're up to option 11, is that we tailored the slip sizes and the configuration with working with Race to tailor the marina to our population, which we felt was better application instead of just 3 sizes, and would also be able to afford, it would afford the boater some savings actually, because you wouldn't be in a, one gentleman mentioned that I'm in a 30-foot slip and I have a 24-foot boat. So we broke it down to 5 categories now, up to 19 feet, 19 to 22, 22 to 26, 26 to 31, and 31 to 36. And there would be no, there's no more premium. But in option 11, under 19 feet, your rate would be $761.37. 19 to 22 feet, your rate would be $945.47. 26 to 31, it would be $2,115.52. And 31 to 36 would be $25.69.03. That's 100% of the average. If you were doing it with, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to keep going on and on.
And I'm just doing some mental math, so it's basically a 30 to 50% increase over current rates.
Yeah, and well, it depends on which size you're talking about. Because for a number of years, the smaller slip sizes, smaller boats, the small slips in particular, were paying a much higher percentage of what we defined as market than the large slip holders were. So to make it even, if we were to say, okay, let's get equal with the other municipal marinas, the larger slip holder fees would be going up as a higher percentage than the small slip holder fees would be.
I'm in a unique position. I co-own boats that are both small and big, so I get both sides of the pain. But I do, first of all, want to thank the subcommittee and thank the committee for hearing all of this, and everybody who's done the work and everybody who's spoken about it. I was at the April meeting. I was one of the ones who stood up and said, you know, we probably don't need to do too much. The pragmatist in me says we can probably get away with just maintaining it. But I also would say that, you know, the opportunity, when you look at number 11, the advantages of it are nice. You know, I've been over to the new Bridgeport Marina. It's really nice over there. Probably more, it's a lot more expensive than what we're talking about here as well, but there are certainly some advantages. So while I'm in the camp of we probably could get a, you know, could be the pragmatist and do the maintenance, I think that what you're proposing in terms of the, you know, 30 to 50% increase for the extra value is not out of line. So I just want to provide that opinion.
Thank you. Yeah. Sir?
Chris Huckins, 95 Orchard Hill Drive. I just have a couple things I just want to ask. A couple of the most important things came to me is, first off, the survey to the boaters should be issued to all the boaters, not just the boaters that showed up, because a lot of people are busy, lead busy lives, so they can't always be present at these sorts of events. Next one was the maintenance plan. What I have a concern is that it seems like we're not really exploring what a standard maintenance plan for the flotation of those aluminum docks. Usually, you know, from my experience, is you would replace the foam underneath it, and then you basically have an everlasting, evergreen marina, except for any dredging that's required or replacement of pilings. Otherwise, there really isn't that much that's going to be wearing out other than the frog pins themselves. So just a thought there. I think we ought to revisit the whole idea about the way we're doing the maintenance and how we do the maintenance and go through it, and let's look at a proposal from Race or whoever what a regular maintenance plan should look like throughout the rest of the life of the marina. So I don't see this, the foam deteriorating anytime soon, 5, 10, maybe 15 years out, maybe. Okay, next one is I think the idea of what other gentlemen said about the frog pins, maybe doing replacement of the frog pins, that might be justified. That would give us the safety that you're looking for and longevity and flexibility that people are looking for, yet still keep the density of the boats that we have today. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. John Convertito, 62 Oyster Road. Can I just ask one quick question? When you did your figures, what was the term of the bond?
30 years.
Okay. I don't know whether to thank you guys or not, and I don't mean that facetiously. One, I want to thank you and the subcommittee for the work that you've done. But the way I'm looking at this is you are asking the town to forego approximately $200,000 in income for 30 years and have the town subsidize a brand new marina that becomes more exclusive to me because there's less people in it, okay? And with 20% less members. My other question is, has anybody figured out what the 20% fewer people will do to the concessionaire?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The 20% fewer boaters, what will that, how will that devalue the concessionaire at the gas dock over the next 30 years? And again, I'm sincere in thanking you for the work that you've done, and it seems to me, and I'm talking to the people in this audience, that our fight is not here. They were given a charge, okay? And they've done that charge. But if I'm going to go to an RTM meeting and ask them for taxpayer money to fund my marina, that becomes more exclusive for me, I think we have plenty of ammo to discharge this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lukish, 147 Perry Street. I just had a couple of questions. I was at this mic in April, and I did bring up the maintenance schedule. What do we do for a maintenance schedule? How do we look at things? I was told that we wait till they break until we do something. That's exactly what I was told in April. We do it on a break, you know, as it breaks, we fix it. So maybe if we could get some kind of a maintenance schedule to look at some of this stuff, to see what we need to replace before it breaks, that might help us out. My other question was on safety. Do we have a record of how many people have gotten injured at this marina through the years? Do we know, do we have anything? Has anybody know how many people are injured or what the injuries are or how often they happen? And the last question is on the taxpayers of Fairfield, all the taxpayers. Are they going to be informed about what's going on with this $8 million as far as, are they going to have a say, yay or nay on this also? Those are my questions.
Okay. Well, as far as the taxpayers go, yes, all of our meetings are noted publicly. So they are have every right to be here as you do or any other boater does. We do not have a record of the injuries that I'm aware of over the years or the extent of those injuries. I know there have been a handful of significant injuries. I know there was a terrible one earlier this year. But no, I don't think that we compile that information.
Okay,
Did I answer all your questions?
thanks.
My name is Ken Camaro, and I live on Carroll Road over by Fairfield U. My first observation or question is, there is a revenue stream that comes now with the 600-plus vessels, and you're going to get another revenue stream, you know, when you have the 400-plus. It seems to me this should have been an exhibit that's up that we could see. Do we end up with basically the same revenue, number one? And number two, did, like the Board of Finance and the other town bodies, expect us to increase the revenue to compensate for the reduced berthing? And the second question is, I may have missed it, but you know, what's the procedure for downsizing the marina from the 600 plus to the 400 plus? And, you know, who's going to lose out and, you know, whatever. I think that's a very important question. You know, what's going to happen to, and what process will you go through? Will there be a lottery? Will it just be amortization? You know, people, you know, no longer sign up and stuff like that. So I think those are important questions. So, you know, do the town bodies expect us to see a revenue increase to compensate for the lower berthing? And then the second one is, you know, what procedure does the town plan or does the marina management plan to go through? Thank you.
No, what we're going to do is, it'll be through attrition, would be opening up the slips, so no one would lose their slips. As people leave, we wouldn't fill them, right? So as those 129 slips became available, at some point, let's say we approved it, we would then freeze filling those slips, okay? So no one's going to be kicked out. I mean, it depends on what they say tonight, but.
So the thing is, you're going to end up, you're going to have vacant slips while you're going through this changeover period.
Not necessarily vacant. What we're thinking is we would not fill them long-term. If we were going to have attrition, if a slip opened up, we would not be able, we would commit season to season, so that we wouldn't necessarily lose the revenue, right?
Okay, fair enough. That's, yeah.
To try to keep as much, try to keep as many slips.
You know what, you know the lease is for 1 year or whatever.
Right. And then your other question, no, the other town bodies are going to push back as hard as you guys are with regard to the fees. This is going to be a big argument for them to say, I know Mr. Convertito brought up that we're cutting the revenue back to the town, and he's 100% correct. But I think it's a much more legitimate discussion to have, because now we can peg your fees directly to the maintenance and the construction of the marina. And it'll be a much smaller surplus to the town, but we can, it happens to dovetail very nicely that we could say, listen, to the Board of Finance, you asked for market rates, the boaters are paying market rates. You asked for the boaters to fund this endeavor from the Board of Selectmen. The boaters are funding this effort. All right? No, you're not getting as much money, but that's a much easy, it's a compelling argument that this commission could make.
Okay, fair enough.
On your behalf.
Look, just one other remark. Is there any way you can work in a nice seafood restaurant that we can put down?
That's not, again, that's not part of this commission, but there is a strategic planning committee in the town of Fairfield that is looking at long-term endeavors like that. But that's nothing to do with this commission.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not a bad idea.
It's a good idea.
Hi, I'm Mike Dowling, 16 Mayflower. This is my younger brother, John. He owns half my boat, so I'm going to let him come with me. I think you're doing a great job. I've been there for 33 years. I used to live next to the gentleman on Riverside Drive. I'm going to speak to two things. One, there's a considerable amount of expertise in this group that is trying to help you. And as to the deference to an expert from the race group, I remember when Jackie Durrell was here and there was a proposal to build a marina at the end of the jetty and to have a series of docks. I don't know how many people remember that. I spoke against that. I said, this is ludicrous. Forget the expertise, the PCs, the PEs, the engineers. That's an asinine plan, and it was dropped. Not because of what I said, because it just didn't make sense for our setting. Turning to this proposal to do a cement system when you've heard from many, many people who go there daily, who don't have an agenda other than trying to do the right thing for the boaters and save the town money. You have a goose laying golden eggs here of $350,000 or so. Could we not budget for capital improvements? That was raised at the April or May meeting that I got there for, and it was dismissed as, well, we're not here to talk finances. Because I wanted to know how much is the gross revenue, how much is the operating cost, and are we allocating some for capital down the road? That's my first general topic. The last topic I have is on this market rate things. Fairfield is a well-run town. I served for 10 years on a fire commission. I got sued for my duty, but I thought I did the right thing. The suit was eventually dismissed. My point is, you listen to your people and you evaluate, is Westport's run as well as us, or are they a fluff? Is Greenwich, is Stamford run as well as us? So we get good value for our dollar. You can't compare oranges to apples. Thank you for your time and thank you for your work.
Thank you. I agree with what he said.
No, but I just have a couple questions. My first meeting as a resident in town, and I'm just curious on a couple things. One, do you know how many people are currently on the wait list for marinas?
Yes, we do.
How many?
You have them?
419 for the large.
Oh, that's not, go ahead.
150 for the medium and 65 for the small.
Okay, so another 700, let's say, or what's my math, 600 and, so there's another 629 people on a wait list for a great resource in town. You've got 600 boaters here, and we're gonna cut that by 20% with this plan, okay? So we're taking away a great resource for the town and making it even harder for these 600 people on the wait list to get in. So now a 10-year wait could be a 15 or 20-year late or never, okay? I don't know if we've read the papers, but the state of Connecticut is losing people. And if we don't, keep Fairfield resources available to Fairfield residents, we're not going to be far behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, no, just get in line. I think you're next up. Sir?
Oh, I am. Ed Kuzma, 420 Wellington Drive, Fairfield. And one thing I heard a couple times that, we're looking to get what we pay for. And I was just wondering, with the marinas in the survey, Greenwich and Westport and so on, why wasn't Stratford and Milford included in that? Because in some cases, they're closer than Greenwich, and the marinas that they have there are around the size of ours. So I didn't know why that's the case, that wasn't included, or it wasn't mentioned anyways.
I don't believe those are municipal marinas.
Oh,
Those are commercial.
I'm sorry then. Well, one thing that was said a couple times tonight is, getting what you pay for. And the concern I have is, the marinas that are in the survey and are, town-owned. I can't use our marina 8 hours a day. I have a sailboat that draws 4.5 feet, and it's recommended that we do not go out 2 hours before or 2 hours after low tide. Low tide occurs twice a day. And it really impacts on planning as far as wanting to take a trip, go to Port Jefferson. I have to worry about what time I leave. I have to worry about what time I got back. And in one case, a few weeks ago, I was going out and I gave myself a few minutes over that 2-hour period. And I still hit bottom beyond the jetty, but still got hung up on it. I was wondering, with all the costs that are being calculated, is there any plans for dredging?
Yeah, the dredging has been approved by the various agencies in the state of Connecticut to do the dredging. The bonding is in place, the bidding is going out. Did the bid actually open up yet? Yeah. The bid has already been opened?
We're in the process of
You're right.
taking care of the contract. We have a low bid.
You do? Okay, good. So it's going to be done this year. So your issue out past the jetty is going to be taken care of this winter.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ed Bateson, Selectman for the town. Sorry I showed up at this late hour. I'm glad FairTV's here. I will make sure I get up to speed. I'm assuming we're talking about option 11.
That's correct.
Just want to give you my input of what I've seen for the past several weeks. As you know, we've just lost our Director of Public Works. And a little bit of history that I would want to know if I was sitting in your chairs, that in decades past, the Director of Public Works has been an integral piece in managing and helping out in the marina. I think the most recent director that we had, there was a breakdown in that. There didn't seem to be that much love and affection paid to the marina or interaction with it. And I think what I would like to see when we hire this new director is more of bringing back to that, the Director of Public Works, reinitiating that. I appreciate what the Parks and Rec Commission is doing, but from where I sit, the marina should be managed by, physically the asset by the Department of Public Works. What you're proposing might conflict with a vision or something that might be offered by a new director. So in going into this, I would suggest slowing down, wait till we get a new person in position, and get them up to speed and see how they feel about the plan, maintenance, is this something we can do in-house, avoid this capital expenditure, sink more money into maintenance, along those lines. So I would just caution that we're missing a key piece here in management. And I think it would behoove us to just slow down, wait till we fill that hole, and then revisit this at the appropriate time. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Eric Resco, 221 Windsor Road. I'm not at the marina yet. I'm waiting about 15 years now so I can enjoy my boat with my father. If you add 5 or 10 years to the waiting list, has there been any consideration for us poor people that are waiting to get in the place? Everyone here is enjoying the marina. I'm trying to enjoy it, and if you do this, it's not going to happen. I'll never get into the marina. I will. Well, hopefully my father will. It's just something to think about. I grew up in Fairfield. I've been here my whole life. It's an asset. It's a great thing for us. And boating's expensive. It's $4 a gallon for fuel. This is a way for people that are less fortunate to enjoy boating. Yes, it's cramped. It's tough. I work on a professional boat for a living. I know it's tough, but you learn how to do it. You cope.
Right. If I could, I'm also in your camp. I'm on the wait list myself. Right? And unfortunately, I want to make sure I say this properly. Right? The feedback from some boaters, some of the feedback has been actually positive with regard to option 11, and some of the feedback is that we have a lot of boat owners, but not a lot of boaters, which means a lot of those boats, because it is so affordable, aren't utilized as much as they normally would be. And a result of the higher fees, whether or not we like them or not, might actually open up the marina a little bit where your turnover would be a little quicker. So that's not the nicest way to go about
I'm
opening
not,
up slips, but if the fees were higher and it was more of a commitment and it was a first-class marina and it was utilized more as an active marina as opposed to a parking lot, our slips may open up. I mean, any one of us can walk up along those docks, tomorrow, and we could see the growth on any number of outboards or there's a high number of boats that don't move all season long.
That's their prerogative, though.
Yes, it is, but maybe the value of parking a boat there all year long and not use it, maybe that changes if, as we mentioned, the fees are increased.
I'm not even talking about fees. I'm just talking about if you guys decide to do this plan, option 11 or option 12 or option 36B, whatever.
Right.
If you extend, if you freeze the list, you're going to add 5 years. Then it's going to be another 5. It's going to be 10 years before I can get in there. 15 years.
We don't know that.
12 years.
We don't know that.
I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, it's an asset. It's something that
Right.
this town does that I think we're going to lose it. It's a privilege to have that.
Thank you. All right, and then, sure, please.
Thank you. Richard Dix, 68 Benson Place. I'd just like to clarify some things. Number one, please, we got to not refer to the system down here as frog hooks. That was a patented, trademarked name. It was actually a company that I was going to be a part owner in. I was refused by Robin Bimmel when I said, can I sell frog hooks here in Fairfield? No, we're going to drill too many holes. We have to move these things. I said, what do you do when a boat owner moves a slip? Well, then we move the davits. The fascia boards can be replaced. I am an employee at Captain's Cove, and I have built all the new docks that are down there. I actually applied for this job, and I say Jason Yeoman's job, It's not easy. He had to take over. He took over immediately, and it's a tough thing to do. But I did inspect these docks. As a builder, I know what they are. I know what they can last. And if you're asking somebody to do a proposal who's going to get that job, they're going to be a little biased. I think the...
Sir, if I could just stop you there, that's an incorrect statement. Racewood is not involved in, no, the bid, whatever work proposals we decided to do would be in a request for pricing that would be open to anybody. It would be regular bid. And they're not steering work to themselves.
Corrected then. Thank you.
I know that, I just wanted to answer that because that has been brought up a few times, that obviously Race is obviously going to bump up the price because they're getting the work, and that's not the case at all. And not just by you, several other people have said it, so.
Just so I don't time out.
That was my time, that's okay.
The condition of them, yes, they are going to time out. They're ABS plastic tanks with styrofoam filled and aluminum decks. They're going to last a while. The pilings were replaced a while ago. They're all in good shape. If you need a thing in 5 years, 2 at a time, they could be taken out, redone completely, restructuring, reorganizing, such as the footage, to get, as Noel brought up, boats paired up better down the line, to get the fairways a little wider. That could be worked out, things like that. I think you're not asking for 600 opinions, but just have a third one, a third option of a maintenance thing, of a rebuild that doesn't require stripping the whole thing out and just doing it over.
Thank you. I actually would like to respond to that, not to you directly, I apologize. You know, as I mentioned at the end of my initial statement, there is going to be a long-term a maintenance plan put in place. But that is dependent on which course of action this commission takes and what direction the marina takes. Ultimately, a long-term maintenance plan will get you back to where we are at some point with the exact same configuration. And that's the problem. That has been the problem at the subcommittee level, where ultimately, if we did it in one fell swoop, or we did it as part of a maintenance plan, but the long-term objective was to rebuild the marina or replace the marina in its current configuration, and we're there in, say, 15 years from now, we're still spending the same amount of money to create a marina that has the same deficiencies that it has now. And that is a very hard sell to make at any level in town. I don't know that I would be comfortable as a taxpayer or as a member of this commission presenting that proposal that we're going to, over a maintenance plan, rebuild the docks, one dock every couple of years, and then 10 years from now, we have exactly what we have now. We spent $7.2 million, and we still have navigation problems, we still have onboarding, offboarding problems, we still have an ADA deficiency problem, we still have any number of guidelines that we're not meeting. That's the challenge. Do we want to raise the rates? No. But if we were to start from scratch and that basin was empty, I find it hard to believe that there'd be this many boaters here tonight saying, we really like option 12, and we want frog hooks, we want, well, I'm going to call them frog hooks for now. We want that, and we want be tying off of pilings, and we're very happy to modify the docks to board our vessels or to get off our vessels, or we want to modify the docks to keep our engines out of the water. There's no way to make that argument to the town and say, give me $7.2 million and we're going to have our boaters go down there and start drilling holes in it. That's an impossible argument to make as far as I'm concerned. It's a much more reasonable argument to make to say, we're going to build it the right way for $750,000 more. And whatever path we take, it very well could be a long-term maintenance plan to ultimately get us to whatever our decision is. Whether it is option 11 or option 12, it very well could be phased in over a period of years as part of a maintenance plan. But to do that, we need to know what the long-term objective is. It can't just be, let's just keep replacing flotation as needed, because at some point, we're going to be into it for a couple million bucks, and then that's the wrong decision to be made? Sorry.
Pete Cusick, Riverside Drive. I think it comes down to the challenge is what the objective is. And I don't think that's come down clearly from the finance group and or the first selectman, because the objective was never sounded like it was, oh, this marina isn't functional, let's build a new one. So I don't see the objectives of this plan ever being clear from the start, other than hearing more revenue generation, which was said. But I agree with that gentleman who spoke before. I really think, in consideration of the boaters who have been there and those who wish to get on the list, you really ought to have a serious plan for maintaining and optimizing what's there, because I feel like option 12 is a bit of a red herring, because it's not that alone. It puts in another dock, and it's a little bit opaque versus what would the current plan be well maintained. Because when you go back to the objective and you say, well, we want this new marina, I would love a slip next to my boat, but at the same time, I don't have a problem backing in with a sailboat. Been doing it for 5 years. So the question becomes, is your community that's being served raising objections? Is that overwhelming? Are they saying, this does not work, we want more? Or is it coming from the top down in terms of a revenue pull? I just think the objectives aren't that clear. And I think perhaps this should be put on pause, because they're all considerations. A nice marina, something that evolves with time. But I think you ought to have another option that really addresses what it would be to maintain and say, are we really looking to spend $8 million to redo and rebuild a whole marina when we might not need to? And then I'd say to the other gentleman who talked about the seafood restaurant, personally, I would take the $8 million and do something at the end of the jetty where you have some of the nicest property in Long Island Sound with nothing there but the dry storage area, and open up this beautiful resource to more people and open up the marina to more people versus spending the $8 million in the, for a community that doesn't want it, seemingly.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dina Cummings. I live at 600 Fairfield Beach Road. I've been in the marina for 27 years. I was wondering if fees are going to go up if we do not pass either of your plans. And is the town looking for market pricing? And if so, I think we need to go elsewhere than Greenwich and Westport, because they are at a different socioeconomic level than most residents in Fairfield.
I can't answer that question directly with regard to are your rates going up, regardless of where we go. I would say that it is likely that the pressure will continue to be applied to raise rates to some level approaching market. That may change. You guys could actually maybe change that dialogue at different levels in town, but that has always been the feedback from the other town bodies.
Okay, so your point was we'll get more, if we're gonna get, let's say I have a 24-foot boat, if I'm gonna have to now pay $2,100 a year, I guess the increase would be an increase of $700 a year,
Well, how big is your boat?
24?
You'd be at 1622.
No, that's what it is now, in a large slip.
No, you're at, but again, that's one of those new categories,
Okay.
right? So we're able to limit, we're able to, like right now, you're probably overpaying, but we can
Right.
put you in a slip to where it's more
Okay.
tailor-made.
So the point is, if the Board of Finance and the First Selectmen say, look, we want you to be in comparison with Westport's prices, so we want you to raise the prices, your rebuttal is that if we pass the plan, at least our prices are going into amenities for the marina?
In a manner of speaking, yes, I think it's a much sound argument to say, I mean, I think it addresses I think option 11, including the pricing, addresses concerns from both sides. The concern from the boating community has always been, we've been overpaying for what we received, right? Well, now you're paying for exactly what you're receiving, plus a minor kickback to the town of around $100,000. And the feedback from the other town bodies is, we want market rates. Well, now we are delivering market rates. They're not going to be very happy about, as Mr. Convertito said, leaving $200,000 on the table, but it's a better argument to be made.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't look like there's more comments from the public. I would like to thank everyone for your decorum this evening. I know this is it can be an emotional topic, and I do appreciate all the feedback from everyone. At this time, if there is no public comment, there is a motion before oh, I do want to go with one point. As much as we did say we should put the brakes on and stop, as anybody who is aware of how things happen in town, this is a very long and drawn-out process, and this is going to go on for any number of months. And even if we did adopt option 11 this evening, we're going to go to the Board of Selectmen, and they're certainly going to give us feedback and possibly would impact an additional design. Same thing with the Board of Finance. It may actually impact an additional design. Same as the RTM, it may come back to us. So this is going to go back and forth. So there are going to be many opportunities to modify or adjust, but the bigger question is, what should the marina look like, not so much for us today, but what the marina should look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because that's the investment that we're discussing. So again, there's plenty of opportunity over the next any number of months for revisions. So, all right, so back to the commission. There's no more questions from the public. Sir.
John Del Bello. I'm on Flintlock Road. I've been on the wait list for 10 years in the large slip. What will this option 12 do to me as far as duration for continuing on the wait list? When I was told a year ago in writing by Andrew Kenny, I was 2 years I would be in, which means 2020. So can you give me a ballpark what you're looking at?
We can give you a
if that's passed.
We're on the same page. We're talking option 11. But yes, what we did,
Option 11, yeah.
what we did as part of the redesign was we actually the wait time for small slips were a year to 18 months. Same thing for the medium slips, but the larger slips were up to 11 years. So in the redesign, we actually we decreased the number of small slips as a percentage and increased the number of larger slips as a percentage. So in your case, your wait time may actually go down.
But you're also going to eliminate 129 people.
Possibly, but again, between that and what we discussed, what we discussed with regard to the rate increases, maybe it won't go down, but the idea is that we were addressing a shortage of slips for the larger boats in the marina.
Right.
And we took the majority of slips we took from the smaller sizes because their wait lists, they were less than a year.
In regard to the maintenance program as an option, and looking at option 12, have you considered
option 11 is with the fingers. Option
Right.
12 is a rebuild basically as it is.
Right.
Okay.
With option 12, have you considered adding just the ADA portion of that to accommodate the safety of the marina?
Well, we haven't examined that exactly like that, but it would be something that we would consider at some point, because I think we have to.
Right, okay. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. There's no other comments from the public?
Bill Mulcairn, Fairfield Woods Road again. Are you really?
If we could, we're going to allow you to finish this, but typically we allow to get to speak one time during the evening, but if you want to, you're already there, so.
I'm only asking if you're going to consider other ideas. I personally think the 800-pound gorilla in the room is that big sand spit. If we got rid of that, we'd have everything we need. What do we need that thing for? This. That's the federal property, right?
No, that's not, no.
You could get all the money you want, add the number of slips, if we would dredge that portion of Ash Creek and make the marina, because it would make that area much healthier by having more water flow through there anyway. So I can see the environmentalists loving it, and I can see the boaters loving it. And nobody's put that on the table. So let's think, there are other things to think about.
It's not on the table.
Oh, why not?
Because it's
our
open,
town.
it's open space, there's federal fund dollars
Who
involved.
who says it's open space? It's our town.
It's not.
We can make those rules.
Sir, I have to just finish
Well,
the
you
comment.
think about it, okay? I want everybody to think about that.
We did. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, there being no further public comment, the motion before us is to adopt the recommendation of the Marina Subcommittee to move forward with option 11 as the long-term plan for South Benson Marina. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will vote in favor. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3. The motion carries. That is 6-3. Again, and this is not, thank you everyone for your participating. This is obviously not the end of the discussion. There'll be a lot more opportunities for feedback. Okay, next up on our agenda is the Board of Education report. Jessica. Yeah, we'll give you a couple minutes to file out.
Yes, he's my husband. Yeah, I'll wait a second till.
Thank you.
You won't be here too much longer.
Sorry, the guy brought up a really good point. You get a new DPW guy who comes in.
That's Ed. That's Ed Bateson.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But
That
how's-
was a good point.
I have this.
Person's going to drive the dialogue?
Oh, you gotta hold it. Where he comes from. He may come from somewhere else. He knows a.
Well, again, by the time they do that,
Listen, I agree with you that this has to move forward now because things do move glacially.
Okay.
Okay. Time for the Board of Education report. Thank you.
Okay, Board of Ed report. We had the start of the school year and started out great. Obviously, there were some issues with some of the fields and playscapes being closed, but the majority of them have been reopened. So we're really excited about that. And there is still some continued testing. There are some more results that we're waiting to get back. And then a few of the areas where there were some issues, there will be a remediation plan, which is still forthcoming. We reviewed a draft of the long-range facilities plan, which will be presented to the Board of Finance at their capital planning workshop at the end of October. It's still kind of a work in progress. There are some projects that may be moved around. Osborne Hill needs a new roof a little sooner than we expected, so that's kind of bumped a few things. So there's that, and we're reviewing the Board of Education handbook that has been revised by the policy committee. That'll be coming up soon, and I think that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for the Board of Ed report? Okay, next up is the Director and Program reports, but as Anthony is on vacation, I don't know if there will be. He handed it out? Okay, so we all have a copy? Probably no reason to read it if we have a copy. All right. Anything else we want to discuss on good of the order this evening? Okay. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. It is 9:14. Thank you.
Hey.
So how'd the match do?
Beautiful.
There's still 5 back. Hey, 4 back, and Milwaukee's losing.
Well, that's a big deal. So you had a lead.
Philly, yeah.